Hello and welcome to Week 3 coverage of the Louisville Cube League Season 4. Today we'll be covering a vintage cube draft, following Pellman through the draft and deck building before watching 3 matches in a King of the Hill format, meaning the winner will always stay in the feature match area as we work to crown this draft's 3-0 winner. We featured Pellman in this draft because so far this season, through 3 drafts across 3 different cubes, he has amassed an impressive 9-0 match record. So we figured we'd go ahead and give him the opportunity to continue his streak on camera. If you are interested in hearing more about our season structure or the league overall, be sure to check out the first video in the Season 4 playlist as it goes more in depth on the structure and format as a whole. With all that, let's go ahead and get into the draft with the rest of our commentary crew.
Hello, I'm Joey.
I'm Prose.
And I'm Scott.
And today we're following Pellman's vintage cube draft. Pellman is currently undefeated through our last couple of drafts that he's been a part of. So if he manages to 3-0 in drafts by getting another 3-0 here, we wanted to make sure we followed him all the way on the King of the Hill table here. So first pick in, looks like Shieldred. Not the most exciting first pick in a vintage cube.
Yeah, not the most exciting pack though. I think it was definitely among the premier picks there, and kind of the same here in the second pack. I mean, there's a lot of exciting cards, but nothing that kind of leaps out of the pack, I feel.
Yeah, I'd be tempted by that Fiery Confluence, but looks like Felia's the pick instead, also perfectly fine.
Yeah, and going 4-drop into 4-drop back-to-back is not like the best place to be.
Very fair. There's plenty if you do end up in black-red at that 4-mana slot, so Fiery Confluence, while maybe a little bit better for curve considerations, definitely makes sense to avoid starting the draft that way.
Third pick, removal spell.
I could see that him being a card I'm thinking about coming back around from the last pack. I would be interested to see just how open black is by if that double black spell manages to table. Love seeing Luris here.
Yeah, and of note, this is a 6-man draft, so we will be tabling cards at a higher rate.
Good point to keep in mind. That makes it more likely that Dark Confidant could come back to us as well. Love Luris. But
yeah, Luris not technically able to be companion if we're going to start that Shieldred, but giving up just a single Shieldred and moving all in on Luris is certainly an option here.
Yeah, and if the worst thing that it is a 3-drop in your deck, I think you're totally fine with that too.
here we get a Surveil land that helps with the Felia, assuming we still want to be white by the end of this pack, so good to see that. Could consider an off-color land to leave us open on colors. The Wasteland looks pretty interesting to me, often in decks with some of these more aggressive elements or ability to play slightly aggressive. Wasteland is appealing, but doesn't seem to be what Pellman's considering here.
Yeah, packs like these I tend to struggle with because there's nothing jumping out at you, and there's a lot of incredibly marginal cards that may or may not be strong in whatever deck you end up with, but it's so early in the draft, it's hard to know which of these tools you're going to want access to.
And pointing out the fact that we were in a 6-man for this draft, I think more compelling to remember how many of these medium packs we're getting multiple cards out of just over and over again. So after not taking the Bayou before, taking this Blooming Marsh, maybe if the Bayou comes back around, would make a green splash later on pretty free. Reading Blade of the Oni here. That card seems fine. Yeah, showing
Looks
us
like he's deciding between the 2 front cards here. I personally love Winds of Abandon. I think it's a little bit underrated at the moment by a lot of drafters.
I definitely like it if we're only 2 colors, and that overload cost will be easy if we get to 6 mana. If white was just a splash, I'm less interested in it. Love to see the Dark Confidant came back around, though.
Yeah, we didn't get the him back, but the Dark Confidant did make it back, so...
Interesting.
Rounding out this first pack, I'm personally loving the idea of going in on Luris Companion. Obviously, lots of things could change if we see a lot of draw sevens and make that Shieldred much more valuable. You may not want to go down that road, but with the 14 or 15 cards we have now, I'm absolutely sideboarding that Luris.
Yeah, definitely. Shieldred's really the only thing you're losing at this point. I guess Cryptic Coat if you are in blue, but
A Parallax Wave was at the front of the pack and probably just the card to take. Toxic Deluge maybe being considered over it, but I'd have a hard time passing this Parallax Wave here. Of note, there isn't a zoom in the pack. The way the first pack went, I would be suspicious at this point that someone else at the table is on Reanimator. So, obviously not something we're going to take here. Tinker.
yeah, very optimistic Tinker here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So surprising. Maybe the thought is at least one of the two sweepers will come back, but...
Yeah, and it could just be a purely power level pick. Like, Tinker is historically an insanely powerful Magic card, so maybe he's just looking to beef up his deck a little bit.
Hullbreacher to follow it up. And I mean, you're really not locked into anything with this first pack of cards either. I mean, we talked about the Loris deck a lot, but
no, and if he's still wanting to play Shieldred, he wants to be open to seeing a Time Twister or a Time Spiral. Tinker could get a Memory Jar, all those picks line up if you keep in mind that first pick Shieldred is kind of at the front of his mind still.
But pretty quickly back on the just value creature train here.
Yeah, not a lot of raw power. I mean, Giver of Runes, excellent card, especially if we're on a Luris strategy, being able to protect that.
Yeah, Prismatic Vista, though, if we are splashing that third color, seems very reasonable as well to take over it.
Yeah, I do want to point out that we did pick up a late Celestial Colonnade, so the blue splash is a little bit more supported as well.
Yeah, not something we could fetch to fit our colors with this Lorien reveal necessarily. Still could only get an island, but a little surprised that Urza isn't in the consideration. Obviously, double blue could be rough, but gives an artifact for that Tinker in case that Tinker ends up making the deck.
That's a very late Demonic Tutor.
Very late Tameo. Yeah, I think I would even prefer the Tameo here, but I might be Demonic Tutor's biggest hater, so...
I'm just very shocked. I mean, everybody at the table has seen this Demonic Tutor, and nobody wanted it, not even the Hymn to Turok player. It's very surprising.
Yeah, I think the Tameo would be way more appealing if we had taken the Urza, but obviously plenty good on its own, but without that, maybe the Demonic Tutor is just better.
I wasn't in this draft, but I can tell that Pellman's passing to Matt, and I can tell you with 100% certainty that Tameo stopped at Matt. There's no chance in my mind that Matt did not pick Tameo given the option, especially after that pack had already come around once.
Yeah, I mean, he had to have been thrilled to have that Tameo table because I wonder what he would have taken over it, but because that is just a very on-brand card for him. But
speaking of tabling, the Parallax Wave did in fact table. Toxic Deluge did not. So Pellman picks up his one Wrath here, and a nice Godless Shrine.
Yeah, that blue artifacts player is eating good, but I think Pellman is also eating pretty good for the lane that he's kind of settled into here.
Right, and not eating too good with Tinker and Hullbreacher snapped away, but...
Well, yeah.
Those two cards, by the way, not looking very impressive in Pellman's deck at the moment.
Right. Be interesting to see... Okay.
Adeline over No More Lies leads me to believe that he's not intending on playing much blue at this point.
Right. Yeah, here's another point where Baleful Strit's great with Tinker if he is splashing the blue. And I think it's the reason why that pick took a second for him, but I think at this point...
Man, that Savine's
Reclamation
feels really good.
Yeah, it looks excellent in the strategy that Pellman is crafting here.
Love to see Preacher here. Yeah, if any, there clearly is another player in black. I don't think they're in black creatures, so back on thinking someone's in some kind of combo reanimator or something like that.
Dallas Trailer's looking great to start off pack 3 here. Not a lot of competition either.
Right, Creeping Tar Pit could keep the dreams of that splash alive, but Palace Trailer's just an easy slam dunk.
Grubland not as valuable now that we already have one black-white duel with land types, but maybe if that one tables, could bolster the mana base a little bit.
2, don't forget Shadowy Backstreet as well.
Oh, yeah. Caustic Bronco over Council's Judgment is a pretty strong message that Pellman wants to be a little lower to the ground. I guess the Adeline over No More Lies also plays into that.
Yeah, it's the second tapped blue land. We have no untapped blue mana yet, I don't believe. So
yeah, and no fetch lands that can fetch these duels yet. So the blue splash looks pretty difficult if he's still intending on it. Have option for a more concrete and final Wrath here, or just another dual land.
Yeah, I mean those white spells have been flying around the table. So we keep talking about this blue splash, and Pellman hasn't been a part of the group as long as a lot of other people. But I can tell you right now that Teferi in the pack is like a green goblin mask. Speaking to him right now. But just goes with the Tundra, so
yeah, brutal that Teferi and Tundra are in the same pack.
And I guess it's better to do it this way, because this way, if the Teferi doesn't table, you just have a land you don't have to play instead of a card that's really awkward to still try to put into your deck.
Happy with this Emperor of Bones. Would have also been fairly happy with that Ledger Shredder if we are splashing blue, but another black-white land. And the scrub lane came back around. I mean, it makes the blue splash easier if all your black and white sources just are
or both
colors. Yeah.
Looks like we're also eyeing this 5 mana Teferi though.
I don't love that, but he does have so many lands already that just doesn't need the scrub lands.
This kind of a total brick of a pack here.
Yeah. Yeah, Sunbaked Canyon makes sense as just a slight utility land.
Blood Crypt enables nothing?
Right, nothing benefits from that red mana. I mean, Pellman isn't a player I put too heavily on playing the 5-color deck, but he does have 5 colors of lands. Teferi wheeling is wild. I have next to no idea what anyone else is playing here. I still think someone's on Reanimator since Archon didn't wheel as well this pack. We haven't been seeing any Reanimator cards come back around too much. Emperor of Bones maybe being a slight one, but Ledger Shredder did come back around and did get picked. If we're playing a decent number of blue sources, I do like Ledger Shredder in this deck. We're low to the ground, so we can double spell somewhat frequently, and just always been impressed by the Shredder.
My guess is that that's not how this deck is going to be built, but I have been wrong before, and it'll happen again. So
I think Pellman's taken so many mana sources that he might not have quite as many deck building choices as you think, because he might end up having to play the 23rd, 22nd playable might be reaching a little bit.
That could be. Let's check out how his final build ended up, and then we'll get on to the games.
All right, so here is what Pellman ended up with in his main deck. So not a ton of surprises. We do see a couple of those blue spells snuck in.
I had forgotten about Cryptic Coat. That was very early in the draft, so even before, in my head, the Celestial Colonnade was the first sign of us tilting blue, but the Cryptic Coat was before that, and looks good in this deck.
Yeah, a lot of attractive Cryptic Coat creatures here.
Well, with Felia being able to blink the card that's
Right.
under it as well, just
Yep.
so powerful if you get one of your Teferis under there or something like that.
Right. But yeah, both Teferis.
Yeah, so looking at the final build, I would be happy but not ecstatic with this deck. We don't have any tremendous power spikes. We have a decently low curve of creatures with lots of like really annoying abilities for your opponent to deal with. I'm not sure that I would be confident that this will continue Pellman's undefeated streak, but he has impressed before. So let's check out the games and see how he does.
So getting started in game 1 here, we got Pellman against JT. One thing Scott noted at the end of us looking over the deck is Pellman's maybe playing a deck that could be too fair, and normally I'm fine playing that in black because of discard spells, Thoughtseize, Inquisition, Hymn. We never saw the Hymn come back around. It never got any other discard spells, so might have trouble if our opponents are trying to do too unfair of things, as JT gets a little bit of early ramp thanks to a Talisman.
Yeah, Pillman's Disruption is largely on the board. I mean, he has a Hull Breacher that can mess up some draw spells, but he's mostly interacting with creatures on the table. I'm not even sure if he has other ways to destroy like other kinds of permanents.
Yeah, off the rip, we have this Oath of Druids coming down, so...
We also mentioned the No More Lies that Pellman chose not to take, so the lack of ability in Esper to pick apart the opponent's hand or the stack does seem to be a glaring part of this deck. But another thing we mentioned during the draft is the good fitsing for white and black, so Pellman has that here, and we'll be able to
and here we see, the Oath of Druids also showing a Time Walk. But what is Pellman to do here? Like, sure, he could Doomblade his own Dark Confidant, but then what is his long-term game plan? How does he put a game together?
And this is a kind of uniquely bad situation for him, too, because even if he is, Sarian Infernal Grasp in his hand, I mean, that thing has Ward 4, I believe, so...
Right, we don't have Snuff Out to get around the cost of that.
See, I can't entirely tell what he has in his hand, but it's not unreasonable to think he thought he might have some play here and just no longer does.
Well, I think our out here is to let Coma hit us, make 4 Serpents, and then just hope that we get to do a lot of cool stuff with Oath of Druids.
I was sitting near this match, and I heard JT lament that he has not played a lot with Oath of Druids, and he admittedly makes several mistakes and lets his opponent oath more than he maybe intended to. I think this Burst Lightning may have been the first example of that. Although it's defensible, like you don't want your opponent drawing extra cards as well. So,
right, I think creatures are not going to be the scariest thing. So oathing into a creature may be better than giving Pellman an extra draw off the Dark Confidant.
Okay, Shieldred not the worst answer here with Death Touch.
I
do still have to take a hit from Coma, though.
Well, but maybe we are going to saddle the Bronco with the Shieldred.
Yeah, so this was quite a long turn here. Pellman went through a lot of options here. This is the same turn that Cossack Bronco came into play, so shouldn't have been able to rumble here, but doing a little bit of digging.
Also a little unfortunate because if that had not attacked, then JT would be triggering Oath of Druids again this turn.
So it looks like a Minskin Boo in hand.
JT's really shown up with very powerful cards in this match.
So I believe this Coma has Trample, correct?
It does, yeah. So Coma is going to trigger here. Do 3 damage. I believe he was missing his tokens here initially, so just getting through his turn before gathering those up.
So since he's already going to have enough creatures to trigger the Oath of Druids, I think I'd run out the Minskin Boo in this spot.
no real reason to do it pre-combat, I guess. I mean, I guess it's pretty unlikely you block the mouse instead of the serpent,
Hamster.
but
Well, if
hamster,
Shieldred just
mouse, yeah.
eats Boo, then Coma hits and makes a bunch of serpents, and Shieldred still can't get through to attack Minsk. So
Right,
I'm not even
yeah.
sure that is Pellman's best block in that situation. I think Minsk pre-combat would have been a stronger play.
Right, but I agree that I think I want him to block the Coma, so just
Yeah.
hiding the information till after combat seems reasonable.
Right, so JT paying back the extra 3 damage from that Bronco here by, for some reason, only making 3 snakes.
Magic stuff, guys.
In the face of 2 kittens, maybe 3 big snakes will be enough. And a hamster. Space hamster, specifically.
Yeah, I mean, if Pellman has his Parallax Wave, he gets to clean up all these tokens permanently. But then again, another Oath trigger is going to come through after that. And as much as JT's put up multiple threats, multiple creatures, he's still actually only resolved 1 Oath trigger. So it's not like we can pray that he's out of targets yet.
I'm also going to go out on a limb here and guess that JT's Oath triggers on average are a bit better than Pellman's.
So here's
Creature
the
of the
creature
Schism.
that we knew about because of the Bronco. I mean, blocks aren't terrible here, but Pellman's going to take a lot of damage.
Well, the Preacher has lifelink, and he bounces a snake, right? So
Sure, I was imagining
Preacher,
a double block to flip a Johnny.
Yeah. Oh,
And
for sure, yeah. But the Preacher effectively nullifies 2 snakes at worst, is what I mean. So
Right, I imagine if JT attacks with everything, we'll double block one of the serpents and then take 10 flipping a Johnny, leaving us with Preacher versus 3 creatures.
and a very angry
a Minsk
hamster.
minus looks pretty appealing to me too. Hitting
True.
either Preacher or a Johnny.
And still being in play actually makes the other block not make sense, so. Gonna claim I just lost it in the glare there, even
That's
though
fair.
we've talked about him so much.
It's hiding. It's camouflaged.
Essentially phased out.
Math is for blockers.
Yep, here comes the army.
Oh, there's a Parallax Wave in hand.
Yeah, but with the Infernal Grasp opting into a Johnny in this instead, or I'm sorry, Preacher in this instead.
Well, also, as we were talking about, like, don't want to turn the Oath online unnecessarily. Like, this is a position where at least he can survive and maybe find a way to find something. So this has him taking 1 point of damage?
Yeah, but the Carnosaur are going to take down a Johnny, which definitely makes this a bit worse. Although, I guess if you double block, I guess you still probably go after a Johnny, but...
Yeah. I mean, if I'm in Pellman's seat, though, I feel...
I'm sorry, the
pretty
Preacher
good.
has Death Touch, not Lifelink.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that's my bad. We've just nullified all of our blocking conversation with our lack of knowledge about cards that are face up on the table in front of us. It's fine.
Well, it's a 2/4. That's a relevant part
Yeah.
of it. But I was mentioning that Carnosaur
Freehold
being
feature.
gone builds us a little bit more towards maybe that Oath of Druids being out of material.
The Freehold Breacher immediately after playing Sylvan Library, kind of a kick in the teeth, but Teferi just
Yeah,
gonna
well, you
tuck this,
just don't activate it.
Yeah.
Teferi's tucking Minsk, so we don't have to deal with that for a moment here. Looks like Pellman has reasonably stabilized the board here.
Yep, keeping his creatures back to protect his Teferi.
Would you trade Hull Breacher for a Coma token here?
To protect at 9 life and 16. I don't know. It's tough.
If Joey was right and spotted the Parallax Wave in Pellman's hand, I would be more inclined to keep my Planeswalker in play, but...
That's a good point, too, yeah.
And it's hard to say. Like, Pellman is not doing anything with the Hull Breacher, like, on his own. And it's nullifying a Sylvan library right now, which is relevant. I mean, if the Hull Breacher leaves play, we can put Minsc and Boo into play the very next turn.
Yeah, it seems like the attack was just going face there, so...
Yeah, and if Pellman plays a Parallax Wave on his turn, then Minsc is also way less powerful. So there's a lot going on in this game here.
Well, do you think that him making that block, maybe he was going to make that block regardless, but do you think he wants JT to Oath past Minsc and Boo?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a defensible angle as well. So Metamorph here, I assume, is copying the Hull Breacher. Can't imagine that it's copying anything else.
Right, otherwise we'd see Teferi immediately take up. Pretty sure saw JT point at the Hull Breacher, but the fact that Teferi is not already on 2 confirms that.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is Parallax Wave, and I think what you do with it is a little bit complicated, because...
We're going to get the Hull Breacher off the table. I'm going to bet that one.
Yeah, get rid of Hull Breacher, draw a card, and like I said, I think I do maybe want to allow JT to Oath to answer to get that Minsc and Boo out of there.
The question is JT going to Oath?
It is a
It would be
yeah.
painful to skip that because you don't know what you're drawing and it could be a blank, and it kind of feels like we're on empty at the moment. But how good is Minsc on this board? It doesn't even seem very good to me.
But with Pellman drawing an extra card every turn and being an Esper, like, I think there's a lot represented that we know Pellman doesn't have, but JT might be trying to think about and could push him towards a weird decision on it. Love the decision to attack with the Preacher there.
Yeah, I may have also attacked with Hull Breacher, honestly. I would just feel so safe with Parallax Wave in play. But JT is choosing to Oath, and we don't know his deck, so we don't know what's coming out. A Spellseeker, not the scariest.
Not the scariest. Time Walk in the graveyard.
Yeah.
If Time Walk was available and we got to Oath another time off of this, that would be interesting.
Wow, you don't see a lot of Spellseekers for Green Sun Zenith. This is wild.
Yeah, curious. I mean, how many other targets he even has? We've already seen a Burst Lightning, the Time Walk that's in the graveyard.
But I mean, this Green Sun Zenith could be the large monster he was hoping to host into. He has a 7 mana available, so that's not quite a Traxor or Woodfall Primus. I guess the scariest thing is...
I mean, in this spot, nothing's
Questing
too
Beast?
Well, but with Parallax Wave. Questing Beast was the first one I thought of as well, but with Parallax Wave, that one's not even sufficient.
Yeah, I'm not sure that JT has a way out here.
Here's an Uro, but wonder if JT may have forgotten about the Hull Breacher here, because...
Pellman did not.
Yeah. Gain 3 life. I mean, gaining 3 life isn't nothing, I guess, and...
Well, I assume he's also escaping it right away.
Tough road. The Parallax Wave in play with 4 counters is really shutting down a lot of what JT wants to be doing here.
Yeah, Uro not good against Parallax Wave.
Yeah, as it happens.
Maybe I was wrong about how quickly Teferi is going to tick up, because surprised to not see it be the first action here. Okay.
He doesn't need it, man. He just has whatever he wants.
I don't know if it's correct to DT before taking up Jace. though, because you could draw whatever you're going to search for, and then that could, or whatever you draw could affect what you want to search.
Sure. There's the other Teferi.
It feels pretty clear to me that we're in garbage time in this game at this point. What are the sequences that JT can come up with to get back into this game here? It has to start with being able to destroy Parallax Wave somehow.
Yeah, I mean, like Woodfall Primus. What other Oath targets are there that...
Primus would be a good one.
Right. I think that's the reason we see Pellman being very deliberate here, just trying to figure out how he can close the game quickly through an Oath trigger that he has no understanding of what it could hit. Such
Just
an
the
interesting
vampire
attack.
coming in.
So just trying to turn off the Oath tells me that there's a chance that if this isn't blocked, JT just lets himself take one, maybe we see Teferi bounce the vampire token.
I think another relevant question here is how many cards are even left in JT's library? Because the number can't be too big, so...
He's only gone over about 5 cards with each of his Oaths, so I'd assume he's at probably like 15.
Triplicate Titan.
Triplicate Titan. Another giant whiff in the face of a Parallax Wave.
Yeah, not a bad creature, but in the face of a Parallax Wave. Essentially nothing.
Right, we mentioned that Pellman has at least some amount of creature removal. We've seen Infernal Grasp already used, but he has a couple other things that could kill the front side of the Titan. JT considering his options.
Pellman's attacking force, not very formidable here. JT certainly has some time. But with 2 Planeswalkers ticking up every turn, it feels the window is closing rather quickly. Maybe quickly is the wrong word.
So drawing a card.
There's your instant draw.
Yes, but now the -3 was an option, so obviously not something
Emperor
we're
of
looking to do.
Bones.
Oh my goodness.
So there's at least a coma in the graveyard over there.
The Carnosaur that got discarded earlier, also a fine option. I imagine we're going to bounce this Triplicate Titan.
And Adeline. So that attacking force that was just unimpressive has kind of exploded here.
One interesting line, we don't know what he drew off the Teferi, but he could have possibly constructed this turn to bury the Spellseeker with the Teferi to leave the creature effectively blank, not bouncing the Triplicate Titan. Okay. In my head, we were going for a big attack here, but
We still have Parallax Wave.
Not the case. True, but
I mean, if you make coma,
I feel that you would have used the Teferi more aggressively if you were going to make any big attacks this turn.
yep. And again, just attacking with the vampire.
Yes, getting the free human off of it.
So maybe he wants to wait for Emperor of Bones until Adeline can attack with it. And maybe from that perspective, waiting on the bounce makes sense, because as of right now, we can bounce 2 things plus remove something with Parallax Wave next turn. Potentially have a completely uninhibited Coma and Adeline. This phantasmal image may force some action.
Interesting. Is it just going to be another Titan? An Emperor
Seems
Bones?
that way.
Yeah.
The worst thing you could hit against this Parallax Wave, if the image is targeted with Wave, then it just dies instead of going under the Wave, and you'll get the 3 tokens.
Okay, I thought so. That is a Zeotor's Proving Ground, JT's final land, right? So he could have gotten
Yes.
copied Emperor Bones and had a black source.
Well, but I mean, Emperor Bones is never. Oh.
Oh. Okay. Well, you're dead.
Just the old end step Winds of Abandon with
That might have been
Teferi
beginning
Time
of
Raveler.
combat.
Yeah, beginning of combat probably. You're right. Yeah, because no way that Goldspan Dragon would be.
Right, and Triplicate Titan also would have attacked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just absolutely brutal there.
We should get 3 tokens, right, from the image dying.
No, it doesn't target.
It doesn't die.
It doesn't target?
No, because it
It's
replaces
each.
target with each. That's how Overload works.
Wow. Okay, well. Wild. So now when this Parallax Waves pops, JT will get back a Phyrexian Metamorph, but I don't think he's going to have time to...
Yeah, I was going to say, brave to let this combat step happen. Yeah, just going to pack them in there.
Okay.
Very interesting. Pellman able to outmuscle a turn 2 Oath when he had a creature in play. That's impressive.
Gotta feel like maybe those Oath hits were just a little bit in the wrong order for JT. Maybe he doesn't have any of the premier threats, but Triplicate Titan earlier maybe could have done some real work.
Yeah, and milling Time Walk in the first Oath trigger, and then finding Spellseeker with the second one, that, you don't want those in that order at all.
Very true.
Also, I mean, it's not for nothing that I think that may have been I guess also Preacher, but Shieldred basically the only way Pellman had to answer that coma. So, I mean, without that Death Touch creature.
Sure, without having a bunch of mana in play first.
Yeah, quickly, of course, yeah. All right, well, here's Spellseeker before Time Walk is in the graveyard this time.
Do you think that Pellman is going to blink the Spellseeker with the spell?
Probably not.
I'm going to guess no, but...
That, I mean, you got to be sporting.
Yeah, true.
Of note, I don't think we ever saw anything besides the Coma and the Uro that JT could Greensun Zenith for, so there's a chance that I was talking about maybe some awkwardness on Pellman's 22nd or 23rd, which doesn't seem to have been the case. There's a chance JT is playing a couple unfortunate cards at the latter end of his draft.
Yeah, so a much better target for Ophelia here.
Johnny making another token when it comes back.
What is this Imperial Seal getting?
Looks like Teferi,
Oh,
Time Raveler.
Look at the on-camera etiquette.
The little
Pellman.
camera flash, yeah.
What a guy.
Teferi able to answer the Oath if it were to come down this turn, so it makes a lot of sense. Also would be an effective answer to Minskenboo, which would be the other card I'd be really worried about here in Pellman's slot.
Of course, we do have that Time Walk, so if JT had the Oath, we're getting a trigger off of that, at the very least.
True.
So a Carnosaur here, but... I mean, I guess you have to shoot the Ajani, but...
We are taking a walk here.
Walking.
You might have to take out Felia.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely threatening. And, I guess we haven't... I mean, we know that there's no other red permanents in Pellman's deck, right? So...
Yeah.
The particularly lethal part of Ajani's flip side isn't there, but obviously still a very effective creature.
He could Emperor of Bones this Carnosaur.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair.
Does opt to kill the Ajani. Maybe he's got other plans in mind for the little dog.
Looks like
we found the
Oath
Oath
there. I'm not sure if that's the card he had or if that's what he drew for his turn here, but...
I would have imagined we would have seen it last turn if he had it last turn, because you could still Carnosaur this turn equally effectively.
Well, we also have this Goldspan Dragon, so we had to have one of those two cards last turn, and I think Goldspan is a stronger play than Time Walk into Carnosaur, because you can still Time Walk.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could have still time walked.
Interesting.
Good point. Maybe a miss on understanding Goldspan makes all the treasures double, because if he does have Oath, should also have cast Oath on second main, so might...
Well, oh yeah, no, never mind. He has 3 creatures.
I guess it does give the option, if you play Oath, Failure could attack, blink a cat token to essentially kill it, but you still make him do that.
Someone could even go a step further and also bounce with Teferi, one of his other cat tokens, so he could Oath and his opponent could not, but that's maybe a little too cute for what this game looks like it's going to be.
Especially facing down a Goldspan Dragon to willingly kill 2 of your own creatures.
And the insult to injury here, where we get to bounce with Teferi and we just get to blink it with Failure, so...
Right, I mean, it's still going to come back with 4 loyalty where Goldspan Dragon can kill it, so... Doesn't make too much of a difference, I don't think. But it maybe forces JT into that line where he's giving up another one of his turns, though. He'll have 5 mana post-combat. Assuming he understands.
Is that Coma?
I think it's Coma or Uro. It's one of the blue-green cards, I think.
Although we're 1 mana short of casting Coma, I believe.
Yeah, that land
card
coming
costs
into
8.
play tapped was a little unfortunate.
Never mind.
Yeah, I wasn't
costs
confident
7?
that Coma cost 7, but we did have 7 available. And the treasure giving us the second green.
Wait, the problem here is that this Teferi can just bounce it, though, right?
True, it does take Pellman's whole turn, but it's not a lethal attack.
Still, it's very tempo positive for Pellman, and it's the line he ends up going with here.
And because he can blink the Teferi, he could just do the same thing next turn, so it doesn't make any actually positive momentum.
Yeah. And now the Felia is a very real threat at 5/5.
Yeah, now it is lethal you're facing down, so you have to have something that can probably kill one of these creatures, because between Teferi bounce and Felia blinking something out of the way, you can't really put something in the way. This gets to kill Teferi, but if you don't have
Oath,
that's not going to be good enough, because this is just lethal coming back the other way.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of better options here.
Right, I mean, he's representing that Burst Lightning we saw game 1 to kill the cat token, but what's Pellman going to do? He has to go for it. He's going to blink the treasure to force action here, if there is any. I mean, action's forced either way, but maybe he has the Burst Lightning?
Just
Nope,
the longest of bluffs, yeah, so.
All right, Pellman still keeping the streak alive.
Yep.
We'll see him as the King of the Hill as we get into our second match here. So into the second match here, we have Matt against Pellman. And do either of you know what Matt was on for this draft? I know we'll see it here in just a second, but...
Yeah, I actually played against Matt in round 1. He destroyed me. He's on a blue-black tempo, lots of low curve plays, lots of good disruption. His deck was kind of a monster in this draft, at least against me.
What do you think it means to surveil Demonic Tutor into the graveyard? Are we making any reads off of that, as Matt off to a very fast start?
My assumption would be that we just have a lot of stuff to do on curve here. But secondhand, I think I see an Imperial Seal in there. Or Vampiric Tutor, I can't remember which of the two he has, which
Imperial Seal.
Maybe he just doesn't think he needs a second effect like that right now.
Yes, we see Matt moving very quickly. Matt's a very deliberate, quick player.
Yeah, and I mean, out of the gates fast. Kaido Shizuki into Chrome Host Seed Shark here with the Mox Sapphire acceleration. Second opponent with power, cheating.
Okay, but Pellman keeping up. He's matching. Oh, but Matt with a subtlety.
Subtlety, yeah.
Brutal play.
We talked about Pellman not having a lot on this axis to really fight with, but
Is that Prof's eidetic memory that he exiled?
it is, yeah.
Yeah, that card I have not seen in play very much, but he played it against me, and when I tell you Matt's deck is great at utilizing that card, it is. He was frequently putting 3 counters on things like turn after turn.
Subtlety allowing Matt to cheat on mana even more than his Mots that got him off to the quick start. We saw Pellman put Preacher on the bottom, just not thinking it's what's going to let him catch up now that we're going into a fresh turn where Matt has left up 5 mana. Concealing Curtains. Do we have the land?
Of note, YouTube comments, we have an Urborg in play, so that island tap was valid.
Mana leak. So we might be seeing the explanation for why Pellman didn't see a lot of that type of disruption. Although I'm really not sure he would have been that interested in it. Seeing as we weren't really committed to blue until late in Pack 3, it feels like, but
wasn't committed to it, but was leaving his options open. But yeah, it's not like he even had an option to pick most of it.
Matt had that daze coming out of his hand before Luris even hit the table.
And you see the tempo aspect of Matt's deck here just on full display.
Right. He spent mana on that daze, but it's the second free spell we've seen him play, so just imagine we might see a flip of one of these incubators.
And there's where that him went.
That him ended up, yeah.
Pellman discards yet another blue source and a Savine's Reclamation, which is, if you have to discard cards.
Continued chipping away here.
Not in any rush, didn't need to get in with any of the incubation tokens. Might flip them this turn if he doesn't end up using mana on any kind of interaction.
Looks like down to 1 card in hand, which...
Yes, but the him hit, or if I'm not mistaken, the him hit that Savine's Reclamation, so a little bit of value there for Pellman.
Yeah, and of note, Matt has a creeping tar pit hiding in his lands too, so the clock is a bit faster than you might suspect.
So Savine's should be exiled, I believe, but...
So,
all right, so not terrible.
Cruise the Bronco, attacks, deals Matt 4 off of revealing Sheoldred. Matt's probably just going to flip and block with one of these incubation tokens. And
seems like a completely fine use of his resources there. Still not flipping another one on end step.
See, I find it hard to believe that could be correct, but...
Yeah, and Matt is not a player that misses stuff like that very often, so very curious to see that here. Matt's considering some attacks here and just sends in with his 2 creatures that don't require mana to rumble in here.
Draws another card off this Kaido.
Man, it's going to be really tempting to play this Sheoldred here, but I'd be really inclined to flip this Concealing Curtains, I think.
Right, especially because it has Menace, so it makes your 2 creatures already present enough attackers that you can't just block with the incubation tokens.
Well, and we can also follow up immediately with replaying that Caustic Bronco, thanks to Luris, so...
Right. I'm on your side. The flip seems more appealing, but
Yeah, I mean,
Children just lands.
I get it. Yeah, no, I have no issue with getting shielded in play, but
And we do replay the Bronco as well.
I was the one who got by forgetting we had Urborg that time around.
YouTube commenters, get him.
And Matt went to his turn without flipping either the incubation tokens.
Oh,
So,
there's why.
we see why. Toxic Deluge in hand. Must have been in hand this whole time.
Yeah, so costing him 5 life, but being left with the 3 incubate tokens to an empty board and 1 card in hand.
And now, still no.
Well, he already attacked that turn with the unblockable ninja and the seed shark, so no reason to flip until Pellman's in step.
And here's that Imperial Seal.
Brutal when you're facing down 7 power to pay 2 life going to 7.
Only 2 of them flippable though at this point. A Johnny, but sink into stupor. So
yeah, that was all. That was all fairly quick. So Pellman had the Black-White Horizon Canopy in his land, so he sacked it to draw the card he tutored for immediately.
Yeah, so able to take a little bit of pain from a Godless Shrine there. Play the Ajani a second time.
Maybe a mistake for Matt then to bounce it with the Sleep into Stupor, because bouncing the token would allow the attacks to be more effective.
Yep, those are not animated yet, so we're going to rethink our turn for a moment.
Okay, that explains maybe he had done some math incorrectly, thinking they had flipped.
Instead, we are animating all of our tokens here. And... oh!
No, this is still awkward, though, because you can just put the cat token on the big one, right?
Well, you can't force lethal, but you can force a Johnny to block. Right? I guess not if you just put the cat in front of the 3/3, yeah. But
I mean, flipping a Johnny doesn't do a lot, so it's bad for Pellman either way, but yes, you could take 4 flipping a Johnny, but leave all of his tokens in play.
And then, yeah, what's the game plan against the on-the-board Marionette Apprentice at that point? At 1 life, I mean...
You're forgetting Parallax Wave.
Oh, sure. At any rate, Pellman did not find it, and we're on to game 2. Pellman at risk of losing his longtime undefeated streak here.
Which I believe this was his 4th draft this season, so he's sitting at 10-0.
I knew it.
Yeah, there's the Tamiyo.
You had the read, yeah. Wow, and the days to get the turn 2 Dark Confidant.
Days on the draw to get the Dark Confidant.
Yeah, so here's Pellman's chance to maybe punish with a mana advantage. But
and
who needs mana when all your spells are free?
Yeah. Well, keeping Loris on top this time. Tamiyo is quite a card, but, presenting quite a bit less threat than he did the first game at this point.
Now, do we jam Luris into the face-up mana leak here, or... oh, Thalia first? Okay. Matt's still able to use his mana to sack a clue end step. And Matt still can represent this mana leak that he may or may not have.
Yeah, that Thalia not a starter, so rightfully being sideboarded in here.
Harvester to kill the Thalia. Celestial Colonnade as land for turn, potentially nice going forward, but just continuing to accrue advantage, him to Torok, leaving Pellman with just one card.
It looks like he did keep the Loris.
That's a good one to keep, but Matt has been representing a Mana Leak this entire game.
But now
Pellman
it's
finds the
castable
sixth
around
land.
Mana Leak. But this is not an Urborg game, but that is a backstreet, so we are able to replay the Dark Confidant. Is there another option?
There's Thalia in the graveyard there, yeah.
Okay, right, of course.
Almost as if on cue.
Yeah, so Dark Confidant.
Yeah, very appealing, especially with Matt. This is his second clue crack, I believe. Still a couple more available.
Grip of cards over there for Matt. Looks like 5 cards, so hard to believe he doesn't have anything to do here, but
Indeed, but between Luris and Dark Confidant representing good amount of choice for Pellman next turn, as he'll have the option to just activate the Colonnade, but could replay the Thalia. He'll have 2 cards in hand, all from 0, so...
There's a Barrogoy, 4/5, gonna effectively brick wall board.
Until we see that Teferi come off.
Yeah, not a bad flip there with that in mind.
Not really one that Tamiyo can threaten. So here, making the face-up play, still 2 cards in hand. Luris gonna offset the life loss from Dark Confidant, probably. As I imagine we're getting in for 5. Yep.
Yeah, now Pellman is taking over the role of the tempo deck in this matchup now.
Yeah, I mean between Thalia and Teferi, he's got a lot of ways to fight back to what Matt's trying to do, but
though it's fair to say that you mentioned Thalia coming in out of the board, like it's not free for Pellman. Like he's got enough mana that he'll be able to play around it this game, but that card is not a one-sided tax. Pellman will definitely feel it with some hands he's putting together.
Yeah, and of note, if Matt finds his Toxic Deluge, it's going to be backbreaking for Pellman, and Matt can lose 0 of his own creatures.
There we see Snuff Out paying 4 life plus the Thalia tax, so Pellman still, though, able to just replay it, so questionable if that was even the correct timing for that Snuff Out. Paying 4 life just to eat 2 of Pellman's mana.
Can't play it any other time with the Teferi in play, so...
That's true, it's just... I'm not sure how much it actually accomplishes.
Right.
You're paying 4 life to prevent 2 damage. There's nothing else that he could replay with the Luris, right?
Yeah.
I guess it prevents the Colonnade from getting in. No, because he could still get in with Colonnade and then cast Thalia post-combat.
So we left Tamiyo at home this time, presumably on Colonnade duty.
Yep, and we do see that Colonnade fired up here. And maybe an Infernal Grasp?
Sheltered
by Ghost.
Yeah.
And that's enough.
That's gonna do it, yeah.
All right, so Pellman not willing to give up his streak without a fight here. We're going to game 3.
Is that Sheltered by Ghost also in out of the sideboard? I don't remember seeing it in the
no,
deck.
that was in his main deck. That was one of the picks that he picked very quickly, and it's a card that I had to go read as one of the more recent additions. But yeah, very, very powerful effect there.
Very powerful. I just wanted to check to make sure, because it would have been an odd sideboard choice for this matchup in particular, but hadn't seen it yet from Pellman, so wanted to be sure.
Catching up on the game here real quick, Pellman has milled a Savine's Reclamation off his turn 1 Surveil land, and then had a turn 2 Thalia that was answered by Matt's Counterspell. Now both players get on board with some mid-range creatures here.
But no third land from Pellman.
Oh, and it looked like Mana Leak was one of those cards we just picked up off this Brainstorm, though not going to leave it up here. Should have a 1/1 incubation token.
Yeah, Matt also, did he miss a land that turn, or am I a turn behind
He
here?
did. He missed the land drop, but yeah, I mean, with him missing the land drop, I think you definitely just get the Dark Confidant off the board.
Also,
Yeah.
brutal that Pellman, I think he has to Winds of Abandon here, but he also would take note of the fact that Matt missed a land drop after brainstorming, so if any other removal spell would have left Matt in a much worse spot.
Yeah. Pellman
Yeah.
playing on here has an Ajani, looks like still no third land. Oh, no, a tap land. But Matt had the answer with a Hardcast Subtlety, which has to feel pretty bad here.
He paid mana for it this time, at least.
Yeah.
Unless he put it back off the brainstorm, we know Matt still has Mana Leak in his hand, so
Yeah,
Pellman's real behind here.
that Winds of Abandon, by the way, shuffled Matt's deck after a brainstorm. So
Right, exactly.
I wonder if that caught Matt off guard, or he put back cards he didn't care about anyway. Still had that Mana Leak. Oh, and a creature to play in step. This is just a masterclass in tempo deck building here. Hymn to Turok, not terribly backbreaking against an opponent who's missing land drops. They got plenty of options to discard. But two castables.
Yeah.
There is that Savine's from turn 1 in the graveyard, which could do a lot of work here, but we're still 2 mana away.
And Matt had the option to get in with the incubation token. It was only 1 damage, so probably would have chosen not to anyway, but representing something with that 2 mana possibly. But nope, just flipping here on in step. Ooh.
The Subtlety. Matt says, sure, I'll happily cast this again. Did eat into his clock quite a bit, but
of note, he can draw that at instant speed if he wants off of the Fairy Mastermind activation. So
yep. And once again, we have a Tar Pit hiding in our lands with an opponent at 8 life, so keep that in mind as well.
Right. It feels like if Pellman cast a land or cast a creature and we do Subtlety, we could get in for 5 with the Mastermind and Creeping Tar Pit, and then there's just nothing Pellman could do about the Creeping Tar Pit inevitability the following turn. But instead, we do see that Savine's Reclamation.
Yeah, so I think with Savine's, if you counter the initial copy, you don't actually even get the second copy.
Right, I think it's all effect of the one spell.
But yeah, Matt, let one of them resolve, it seems. Yeah, it doesn't copy itself when you flash it back. It copies itself as part of the first one resolving, so.
Interesting. Still just climbing in the air here.
Yeah. But with Pellman at 5 life, maybe a happy little dog isn't going to be enough to bring us home anyways.
Yeah, and Matt is presenting unblockable lethal at the moment with his flying creature and his tar pit, but Pellman has shown some ability to interact with creatures, so he's not dead, but it's not looking great either.
Oh, just attacking with the Bronco, it looks like, not saddling.
Taking 2 there, putting him dead to the onboard tar pit.
Have to think he was digging for a parallax wave here. It's not the only thing I can picture, and yeah.
And a concession, the Russian bleeds.
Yep. So now 10-1 on the season. We can take a quick look at what Matt was working with here, as we're going to be following him into the 3-0 match. We saw a lot of it already, but there's a few interesting bits hidden away in there.
Well, the first thing that jumped out at me is he has yet another free spell that we didn't see in Force of Negation. Also a Thoughtseize. I'm sure Pellman would have loved to have seen that one in the draft.
Yeah.
Right, has stack interruption with his counters that we've seen and just mentioned, extra discard that we hadn't seen yet. Not that much of a way to interact with the board. Snuff out Toxic Deluge, end of list, it looks like. So,
Oh yes, Sinking the Stupor also is just a bounce spell.
True.
Harvester.
So a much more diverse suite of answers. So we'll see if he lines up those answers against the right spells as we get into the final match to see if Matt can put together the 3-0 at the King of the Hill table.
Yeah, and Matt's opponent in that match is going to be Spurlock, who, as this is a 6-man, it didn't follow our regular bracket structure, though Spurlock is also coming into this match at 2-0, so we do have a winner-take-all 3-0 match here, and we can take a quick look at Spurlock's deck.
And if I'm not mistaken, this is Spurlock's second time playing for the 3-0?
It is, season? Yeah.
Impressive showing for him as well.
And impressive looking deck. I really like what he's put together here.
Yeah, kind of a weird draft in that all three decks we've looked at are operating on kind of a fair axis, but all really high in the power level for that style of deck in this cube.
Ooh, this deck is a good Bombardiers deck.
Yeah.
So many good targets for this Bombardier. Oh my goodness. Oh
yeah,
wow.
we have both Bombardiers and Gut. I'm a little dubious of this Torsten, but outside of that, I'm pretty happy with all of these cards.
Right. If it wasn't for the Cradle, I would agree, but I think the Cradle, he's got like good ramp creatures. Like, I think you got to try to have unfair draws in green, and Torsten in this deck leans it towards some pretty unfair draws.
Yeah, but let me ask you guys this. Have you guys ever sacrificed a Torsten to a Broadside Bombardiers? Because
I was looking at it or the Nissa. The Nissa,
yeah.
I can't say I've had the pleasure. I really like the Generous End in this deck. I mean, you always play those, if they're on color or whatever, but being able to potentially put that one into play with the Guy's Cradle and sacrifice that to Bombardiers seems more reasonable to me than Torsten, even though it's essentially the same thing,
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't make 7/1/1s.
That's true, but do you need those 1/1s?
With Skull Clamp, yes.
Listen, you've only domed your opponent for 11 with Broadside Bombardiers, all right? So, sorry, for 9, excuse me. But
yeah, you should also get to draw 14 cards.
Fair enough. Let's hopefully go watch that happen.
So, getting into the third match here, gotta imagine the theme of this game is going to be Matt drawing Toxic Deluge and how quick of a start Spurlock can get out to, because Spurlock's deck, I don't think, wants to play evenly with Matt's deck at all.
Well, Thoughtseize is going to help out in that regard.
We noted that Matt doesn't have a ton of ways to interact with things once they hit the table. And Spurlock's deck looks very good at putting things onto the table quickly, so it's going to be an interesting matchup. We got to see how the cards play out.
Takes the Skull Clamp. Interesting. I feel like this One Ring is actually a threat for Matt's deck and how he's trying to increment value, as the One Ring's going to make it so Spurlock's able to stay equal to or ahead on cards. Maybe just plans on countering the One Ring when it comes down and couldn't counter Skull Clamp on turn 1, so...
Yeah, my guess is that Matt is leaning on his Man Elite Counterspell Force Negation package to handle that one.
Well, I was just about to say that with that carry added, the ring could come down next turn, but this Flashback Thoughtseize feels likely to put it into that.
Yeah, although this Pyro Growth also is pretty scary. It's already going to be artifact land. Oh, I guess we removed our sorcery. So
Just a
only 2
2/3.
power, not not too
Just-
scary, I guess.
Still, though, able to start doing some stuff.
Although we do need to draw a land for that to happen, because it looks like, unless there was another land in his hand, I can't remember what that glared card
I think
is.
that glared card is.
I
A
believe it's a
plane?
land just because I remember him having 3 lands off the first Thoughtseize.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so now we have Sentinel or Pyrogoyf or Abrade as an option.
Again,
We opt for the 4-drop and get dazed.
the card isn't even out of
Brutal.
his hand before it's dazed.
Yeah, Matt, a very quick player, and when he already knows the information ahead of time, just very ready to pull the trigger.
I gotta say, when Matt is doing his thing and he likes his deck and he's just like living his life, it is a joy to watch. He is just so fun to watch play.
Kavu here over the Sentinel. Interesting.
Well, this leaves Abrade up.
Hold up a braid, yeah. This is a
Doesn't
3/3
appear to
currently,
be
looks
super valuable as an option, but 2 spells is more than 1.
Snuff out coming for the Kavu.
I just don't know how much I would expect Matt to put forward something worth abrading. And, are you priced into abrading the Snapcaster Mage here? I would hope not.
Yeah, especially given the Sylvan Caryatid, it's hard for that Snapcaster to come in for reasonable damage. I would expect a Sentinel play this turn. Yeah. Oh, counterspell. Wow. Okay. A little more mana, but Spurlock is on a Braid that's not doing much and 1 other card, while Matt's hand is just... I guess he only has a couple cards over there.
Harvest.
Whoa, Hardcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting, though, into a braid.
Well, that thing has 5 toughness, right?
Oh, I thought it was a 5/3, but could be mistaken.
I believe it's a 5 or a 4/5. 5/4, excuse me.
5/4.
Still.
Okay.
An annoying amount of toughness when you have an Abrade in your hand. There's a Saga.
We're going to need a counter on that at some point. Thanks, Matt.
Spurlock can't feel great staring down all of that mana, knowing that Urza Saga was probably the draw for the turn. Matt getting a little ahead of himself on the Urza Saga activation.
Just a preview of things to come. Matt picked up all of his blue sources initially. That might be like a subtle tell that he doesn't have a blue instant to play. Might just be nothing of note.
Just the most annoying board in maybe the history of the world with a 3 damage burn spell in your hand.
Well, we're going to get to a
And
braid to
and a
destroy...
0 power creature to kick it, but
We're going to get to destroy the construct and then die.
is that you're going to destroy the 1/1? Are you that desperate with your Abrade?
I think you're expecting Matt to make another one.
Okay, sorry. The 2/2 then.
And he's going to find an artifact, so they're a pair of 3/3s.
Oh, we're teaming up. Okay. Still seems dire straits for Spurlock here in game 1.
Yeah, not great. Not great, Jim.
We're going to get attacked 4/5 that we can't reasonably interact with here. I mean, you could chump the construct to soak up some damage, but where is that getting you?
Oh, now 5.
Yeah, well, we saw his mocks. We knew that was coming.
Yeah. And
Matt has a
6
brainstorm
now.
to potentially gas back up here.
And probably more relevantly, make another
Oh,
artifact.
true.
Don't like the timing on this brainstorm, though. You should have done it in response to the Urza Saga trigger. Free shuffle.
True.
Yeah, solid point. Maybe his cards in hand were gas, and he just didn't want to put any of them back.
Still, Brainstorm, it's hard to believe that your worst 2 cards you don't want to shuffle away. Even if, like, if you're in a spot there where you have 4 good cards in hand and Spurlock's on this board state, doesn't matter.
Yeah, maybe not. We just looked at Spurlock's deck. I don't believe there's a card that gets him out of this.
Yeah, it doesn't seem likely.
Nope. I thought that was a concession, but maybe we're just peeking at the graveyard real quick.
Right. Fiery Confluence, destroy the 3 artifacts that can attack you, is a stopgap, but...
Yeah, not really enough, though.
All right, so Matt up a game here. Spurlock, his opener in that first game, not really fast enough to keep up with the tempo that Matt had assembled in this pile of 40 cards.
It definitely seems like he's going to want to come out of the gates a bit faster here.
Yeah, we're hoping for a mana dork on turn 1 here.
Right. Imagine if that last game Spurlock had the Skull Clamp that got thought seized. He had a couple chances to put it on something and could have made a difference. Given him at least a little bit of momentum.
Oh, Mox Diamond? Okay.
Kind of a mana dork. Discarding Gaia's Cradle.
To me, that speaks to maybe not having more lands or just...
Not having more creatures.
True. I mean, playing against Matt's deck, maybe you don't want to take a line that requires you to have multiple creatures in play for your land to be worthwhile. Because, yeah, we saw a Mountain draw for the turn, and here's an Elegant Parlor, so had other land options to discard, but chose the Gaia's Cradle on purpose, and honestly, thinking about Matt's deck, it's probably a reasonable decision.
All right. Getting some decent value
Great
out
finds,
of it this time.
Yeah.
Matt kind enough to play a 3 toughness creature this game.
Lotus Cobra possibly able to ramp us into a 5 this turn? Could this
4
be...
4 with Daze Protection.
Okay,
Whoa.
it's Nissa.
And there's the Daze. You hate
sending that island on a full merry-go-round. He was so excited to cast it. So no double blue, so if there is counterspell, can't represent that.
I missed an attack with our Lotus Cobra there, but...
Another Goyf.
2-3.
2-3. Yeah, I couldn't... What's under the Daze again?
Tameo.
Oh, Tameo, right. Okay.
Yeah, Nethergoyf is the one that only counts Matt's graveyard here, so we're not getting the benefit of the land or the Planeswalker.
Shocking in, so 6 mana.
7 mana, you forgot the Lotus Cobra.
No, 6 mana with the Lotus Cobra.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Oh. Ignore me. Editor, take that out.
Least impressive 6 mana. And
That thing's huge. What are you talking about?
There's that Eidactic Memory.
Oh, I'm so glad we get to see this on camera.
Yeah.
Prose with
Eidetic?
Mastermind in play.
I don't know what that word is.
Eidetic, I think, is correct.
Phyrexian Revoker. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that's probably naming the One Ring. I can't think of much else that Matt has seen which would be worth naming.
Well, you could turn off the Mox Diamond, but I'm not sure that's where we are in this game.
Yeah.
Right. I like the One Ring as the name.
So yeah, the Fairy Mastermind still can't attack because tree.
Yeah.
That may not be the case for long.
And we've seen at least a Snuff Out and the Sink into Stupor as a way to get that tree off the table. Matt not in a rush to do anything about it at the moment, though. Preordain. This is the first extra card for the memory here. Nope, and that's all we got.
Right. Mastermind doesn't line up the best with memory, as you normally want to activate the Mastermind on your opponent's turn. We might see that here on Spurlock's end step.
Well, now he's already drawn his
Oh.
second card, so you can still draw your card, I suppose, but won't get the extra.
And a currency converter. With nothing left in hand.
Must have drawn that off the cycle.
Yeah. Spurlock's deck's really not delivering the kind of hands that he needs in this matchup, it would seem. Versus Saga.
I'm on the fence here, but interested to hear. Well, let's see what Matt's going to do before I. Just a shark. I think I would be really tempted to be attacking with this tree. I mean, I know it's keeping the Mastermind back, but it feels like for the past 2 turns at least you would have been trading up.
Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, it's tough when Matt's got
I mean, you
so
don't
many cards in
know.
his hand,
You don't know, I guess,
but-
because Matt could just draw like 3 or 4 cards in a turn, obviously, and then that instantly changes the outlook. So maybe not.
No, but I think you're right. Like, Fiery Confluence was a card I mentioned in the first game. Like, you have some amount of reach in your deck. If you could just get Matt low, this already feels like a game you have to steal. So
Oh, wondering though.
it's almost certainly maybe not.
I think, yeah, okay. So I think Matt's not mana leaking here because that's what's been named with Phyrexian Revoker. So he just doesn't care.
Oh, okay. Still, the protection is something. I think if nothing else, that should greenlight an attack from that tree for this turn.
For sure.
Right, but this is the turn where I think Matt finally had enough stuff to put in front of it, and now it's never getting in past Baleful Strits.
Yeah. Oh, yep, our saga is 1 chapter deeper.
And
Construct's immediately going to be 3/3, and then 4/4 if he makes a second one, and then 5/5 when it triggers. So Matt's board quickly growing out of control here.
right, if he can cast any non-creature spell, the Sea Shark makes it bigger. So I would expect a construct to be able to get in next turn.
Just going to gain some life here while we have some extra mana. And we are once again at a point where I'm wondering what Spurlock can be drawing towards here. We can play any of our 7 drops. I guess we only have 1 left in the deck with Nissa countered already, but
It's tough. To only being able to draw 1 card a turn. I mean, I think Fiery Confluence is a good start to digging out of this hole, but
Right, Fiery Confluence, deal everything 1, deal Matt 4. Get rid of the Revoker to free up the One Ring, and then you get to start drawing cards with the One Ring, and probably need to draw a second good card on that same turn.
it also kills the Baleful Strix.
Right, it allows the Ent to start getting in,
Yeah.
possibly.
Although, yeah, the Mastermind and Nethergoyf are big enough now to take it down.
Right, especially if an artifact goes to the graveyard off of that Fiery Confluence.
Yeah.
so this is a white, red, blue, green 4/4 territorial Kavu.
Yeah. Oh, but we found the Sink in the Stupor for the tree, so I imagine we're going to have some big attacks for Matt on this turn. Although that means he didn't construct, yeah.
Exactly. But he's probably going to make one now.
Yeah, I wonder if you're supposed to just construct to untap and then sink main phase.
It does seem like that would have been better here, given that he has a couple mana ups.
Well, he can also attack with the Incubate token this way if he wants to.
Right, but it's only a 3/3 as compared to the construct, which would have been at least 6/6.
Sure, yeah.
Matt counting out his Nethergoyf, he should have just looked at the screen. It's right there.
Yeah, it's right there for him. Just look down to your right, Matt. Yeah, so 5/6 Nethergoyf and a 5/4 Fairy Mastermind here.
Yeah, the Nethergoyf can be blocked here, but looks like it. I mean, he could team up and take it down, I suppose, but that's assuming
Right.
Matt has no interaction either.
I think I'd go for that, though, just because you're not getting any interaction from Matt at this point regardless. And even though he could replay the Goif,
Oh, and he does have the interaction.
which gives a 4/4 incubate.
Yeah, I think you have to make that block. I think that is how you start to dig out of this game. Like, you block there, hopefully take down another Goif, top deck Fiery Confluence, maybe you get something going. As it stands, I'm not sure even a Fiery Confluence would be enough of a start to get out of this, but, you know, you got to play the cards.
Does he not still have the int in his hand anymore?
No, he played.
No, it got him to Turok.
Him to Torah, got it.
Yeah.
So
missed
just Bristly William.
that. Well, that's not enough.
Yeah, it looks like Spurlock is counting it up now. If I block the 5/6, then I
That's
take
not
1 million
required.
damage.
Well, we have a second blocker, but I'm still not sure it even matters because we can make a rogue from the currency converter.
Sure. So Matt is pointing out his two largest creatures there in the middle, and then doing the math. And yep, Spurlock concedes. Matt cinches the 3-0, and it's the first of the old guard locking down that coveted trophy for the cube. Finally,
We are so back.
Very
Yes.
impressive deck from Matt. Very up his alley. So good to see him get a 3-0 with it.
Yeah, again, lots of fun to watch him play deck in that style. He loves it, and it shows. I think he was having a blast all day long.
So with that match result, even in a 6-man draft without a normal bracket guaranteeing a 3-0 winner, we do end up with a 3-0 today. Congratulations to Matt, gaining not only 3 wins on the leaderboard, but also getting to choose a card to remove and one to add to the vintage card pool. Match change today was to remove Master of Death and to add Flame of Anor, so do keep an eye out for that in future videos. You can always check out the Cube Cobra link in the description below to see a full list of the cube as well as all 3-0 changes that have been made as a part of it. While this draft is now wrapped up and only had 6 people in it, we actually had 10 people overall on this cube day, each participating in 2 drafts across a 6-man pod and a 4-man pod. Because of that, there won't be a scoreboard update on this video, as we do have some more coverage from this week coming later, so you'll have to check back if you want to see the effects that this week had on the scoreboard overall. That will wrap up our coverage of the league for today. As always, you can find links to our Discord, other social media, and today's cube in the description below. Thank you for watching, and we hope you come back next time.